Hello and welcome again, ladies and gentlemen. So, all of my students out there, my Tricks and Traps University students, and as well as the 97 odd thousand subscribers, please listen very carefully and I'll reveal to you what the truth is and what the fiction courts operate on. I've entitled this, as you can read it, and I've taken some notes here, what the truth is, what it means, I should say, why the fiction courts use trust, and what is law. 3 subjects, so please listen very carefully. This broadcast is an educational broadcast for the entire world, for they may benefit from how these systems of trust, law, works. First of all, the thing that you need to understand, which is paramount, is what's the difference between a trust or a truth and a fact. The word trust is identical to the word truth. There is a 2 process there, and I'll explain. So why do people say, or the fiction courts or the politicians say, well, that's the truth? Why don't they ever use the word fact? So, like always, I will give you what it says by qualification, which means it's cross-referenced and they're not my opinions. You can see, and I'll read it for you. You don't read it. Let me read it first. And although I lack the adjectives, and I keep saying that, the adjectives is what gives Shakespearean language that incredible imagery. I don't use that type of imagery because I'm more factual. And I want to be able to give the facts as to opposed to the Shakespearean interpretation of what these things are, which is in itself the most problematic. Hence, people on YouTube and everyday life is able to sell you things that they themselves have never done, because what they're doing is they're creating colorful adjectives to create the imageries in your brain that makes you into a buyer, okay, and turns you into a buyer's market. I'm not interested in those things. My premises is to convey the facts and show you the differences. Theoretically, and it is theoretical, this should, upon receiving this knowledge, it should change your entire life and the words that you use. And let's see if that works, okay? So I'll read it for you. A fact is something that's indisputable. That means you cannot dispute it. 2 times 2 equals 4. So anything that claims to be a fact has that level of integrity in it. And then it's got a comma, based on empirical research and qualifiable measures. In other words, it's gone through a 3-step process, one of measurement, one of cross-referencing, and also the standards, what those references and quantifiable measures should be. So we all can agree that 2 times 2 equals 4. You understand that basic premise, and that's called a fact. Facts go beyond theory. Listen carefully. These are not my words. Facts go beyond theory. Anything calling itself theory, like theory of evolution, theology as in religions, are all that. They are non-facts. Okay, they are non-facts, but that does not mean they don't exist. But one must never, ever confuse and make claims about things you don't know. because once you do that, you've entered the world of fiction. In other words, you can make it up as you go along. They're proven through calculation and experience, which means there's a reputation, not reputation, a repeating, okay? That's called repetition. Keep mispronouncing, I do beg your pardon. To repeat something again and again to check the fallibility of it. And you can go many directions with this, okay? Many directions. So, they're proven through calculation and experience, or there's something that is definitely occurred in the past. Something that has occurred in the past. But it's not got anything in the present. There's a trick there, you see. You have what is known as time violations. I've yet to get to the juicy bits, but I need to give you the groundwork. You see, they're only giving you the past. The past itself is not a fact because it's already happened and you don't have first-hand knowledge. It might be a second ago, and therefore your memory will be 30% good for it. But in reality, once you step out of the present zone, whether you like it or not, you're out of the time jurisdiction because you only know things now as the facts. The rest in the past are memories. Memories are not facts. Okay? Truth is entirely different. It may include a fact, but can also include belief. So, what that means, ladies and gentlemen, is when people are talking about truths, they're talking about their opinions and nothing else. And occasionally, they might throw a fact in there to get your trust. You understand? That's the psychology of it. I've yet to still come to the juicy bit. You've heard this. Anything that has the prefix, the root word, or the suffix within a word or a sentence or within a paragraph that describes something as theoretical is exactly what it is. It's a theory. It's a proposition, like a belief, like a religion. That's why you have so many of it. You understand this? Okay. Now let's get to the juicy bit. You see, when you have a fact like this, that's a fact. But if I was to color this fact so much that I get you to believe that it's nothing but a bottle with a white cap on it, that it could be any other things, some other adjectives, then I talk you out of this fact, like your house, your car, your property, and the knowledge that you have, including that you have a death pledge in your life. It goes much deeper, much further. That's a fact. Most of you have got death pledges called mortgages. How did they talk you into that? I'll go further in. So you understand this is a fact. If I was to do this, this would be a belief. It is your belief that there is a bottle behind my hand. You understand this? But it's only presumption and assumption to assume that this came from the back or the inside of my hand. But in reality, you have nothing. Until your senses, 5 senses, 6 senses, tells you otherwise. Cross-referencing each other. Okay? That's a fact. And people always want to talk you out of this fact. Like say this is let's imagine this is, a million, 5 million, or $10 million. Is this 10? Yeah, 10 million pound note or a dollar note. There'll always be somebody there trying to talk you out of this, because this is a bond. And if it's 10 million, it should be backed up by 10 million pounds worth of silver, called silver sterling. Hence, they constantly talk you out of these things. You understand what I'm saying? Now, let's see if we can get to the crunch. This is the crunch. The other question is, what is a truth? What is a truth? It's very simple. Let's imagine that I said this is a pen, and because I held it like this, a police officer, and they always come in two, say that he turned this pen into a knife and tried to stab me. And if they put that on paper, okay, I won't use police officers, I do beg your pardon, they get a raw deal. Let's imagine that somebody made a claim that I tried to use this pen as a stabbing instrument. To turn that into a truth, they'll try doing it into a truth. So they'll have a witness, and that witness will now testify, two witnesses, okay? They will testify that he tried to stab me with this pen. Okay, but that in itself is still a truth. Once two people is there is another one that's missing. And that's the third factor. That's when truth comes into its own, as it were. So what the courts will do, through whoever made the claim or complaint, is they'll write to you in such a way as to mitigate, talk you into mitigating that you have a debt or a mortgage, or you use this as a stabbing instrument. And if you get frightened and you write as to say that you was defending yourself, then you did use it as a stabbing instrument. But in reality, it could have just been in your hand. But because the way that it's written in such a disgusting language that you don't know how to successfully defend yourself, so you walk and talk yourself into mitigating. That's called mitigation. Now they have you. Now they have that, what is known as truth. Because truth, ladies and gentlemen, TRU means three people, three witnesses. And that could be corporate, could be men and women, it could be anything. It could be a camera, it could be a computer-generated image, CGI or something. Could be any one of them. Now that they have established, three people have come together to say, including you, who's supposed to have used this as a stabbing instrument, because you didn't know how to verbalize your defense, you created a trust law. Because truth, ladies and gentlemen, is not a fact. It requires three people to come together, the Father, the Son, Holy Ghost, the executor, beneficiary, and the administrator, the judge, the clerk, and the confessor, which is essentially me saying, well, I didn't mean to use it like that. I wanted to write it, but I just admitted I didn't mean to use it. It's like I didn't mean to kill him, because your words fail you. And when that happens, they've got trust involved. Because in order to get trust, all they require is three people. Yeah, three people. The husband, the wife, and the person that marries them. Three people. That three will come up again and again and again, like a live life claim. But I'll come on to that later. So what is a truth? What does truth mean? It means three people have come together to put something on paper or verbalize it. what they call testimony, vocal testimony, verbal testimony. That's why they record conversations when you speak to them. But when's the last time you recorded anybody's conversation to put them under the penalty of perjury? A very powerful statement, that is. So, truth, ladies and gentlemen, actually TRU means three. TH means title. Three people have come together to make title, to put you in prison or to take money from you. You understand? That's why documents are counter-witnessed. When's the last time you counter-witnessed your documents with somebody? Everybody else is witnessing documents against you, but you're not witnessing any documents against them. Where's the level playing field? You understand what I'm saying? So what does truth mean? It means three people or more, three or more people coming together to make contract. Contract means verbal or written, what they call a verbal contract. Eyewitnesses, so on and so forth. So why is it that the courts need this? Because without that three parties, they can't initiate the second phase of truth, which is called a trust. Trust means three standards. I think ST stands for a standard. Okay. Let me just check up on that, and I'll let you guys know in the future what ST stands for. It's just I've forgotten. But in order to get that trust working through the Vatican system or the court system or the church system or the father-son church system or a simple trust document, they need that phase. They need that second phase in order to grasp and put you into their trust law. So then that becomes now what is law. So let me just recap why the courts absolutely need three people, like a judge, a clerk, and of course you. That creates the trust and the prosecution prodding you all the time. All the time they're claiming immunity from lying, cheating, and robbing because they were never in the well of the court on a level geometric level playing field. They're off the plane. They're on the blocks of another plane. Yeah, you can't play tennis on an unlevel match, on an unlevel field, can you? Of course, same with football. That's why the courts absolutely require your participation and your consent. Your consent to create that trust law, those three factors coming together so they can further mitigate you into that trust law so they can take money off of you. That's why the courts operate on trust law. Once they establish the trust law, they've established law. Because what is law? When two or more people come together and agree upon something, that becomes law. So what does the prosecution do with their trickery language, where they are totally immune from prosecution? They lie, cheat, and so on and so forth, and put you in a position in such a way, in such an absurd way, that you yourself walk and talk yourself within the narrow parameters to agreeing upon with all of their stupidity. You know, when you answer, when they ask you a question and you answer, and they tell you just yes or no, how many questions or events and circumstances can be answered with yes or no? None can. When was you born? 1965. That's, was you born on 1965? Yes, I was. But they didn't give me the spelling of born, did they? It's just verbal, what you thought it meant. once you keep answering these Spanish Inquisition questions on paper as well as cross-examination, they've established that they've got now trust, and they've established that there is now a law because you agreed to it through that Spanish Inquisition. Whether you are innocent or guilty does not matter. What matters to them is that they walk and talk you into agreeing that you use this pen as a stabbing instrument, to walk and talk you into that you gave up your lands called a mortgage. You first of all have to have something in order to mortgage it. Seems so absurd, doesn't it? You have to have a piece of land already in order to mortgage it. So where did that piece of land come from? It's part of your heritage. Dust you was made from, and dust you'll return. You are the land. You understand what I'm saying? Yes, they have jurisdictions in maritime and so on and so forth. So the crunch of it, ladies and gentlemen, if I have not coined it, and I don't want to coin it in creative ways, I want to be able to coin it so you understand it. A truth is not a fact. And what they do is they project their opinions on you until you agreed to their opinions. Now a law has been established. Since that law has been established, you have to pay. And the payment is penance. The word penitentiary comes from the word penance. Like the penalty of perjury. It carries penance with it. I've told you what law is. Law is not some, law of gravity where it's universal. You throw a stone here and you go to Alaska and you throw a stone there. Same weight, same whatever, comes down at the same time. There is no universal application with man-made laws. They make it up as they go along. So, please understand what I'm saying to you. A fact is a fact, and it stands by itself whether you agree to it or not. A stone is a stone, whether I have it in my hand or not. This is a bottle, amber, with a white lid, containing some essential oil. Whether you like it or not, if you disappear, that is still what that is. It lives independently of you. A truth does not. You get rid of the three people that made that law, you have no truth. It's disappeared. And if it was factual, it will still exist, even though those three people disappeared. That's why the fiction courts need to create a truth by having witnesses against you, as well as you being a witness against yourself, called a self-informant. And they create the parameters of their narrowing questions, what they call Spanish Inquisition, where they will not even allow you to answer in your own voice. And then they will tell you, no, just answer yes or no. No, don't put it in your own words. Just tell us yes or no. Yes or no to what? Until they engineer the questions where you just kind of inadvertently have just admitted to something that you didn't do. Yeah, that's called the Spanish Inquisition. Their language is geared up to make sure that you are found guilty, whether you are innocent or not. You see, they're not looking for the truth. They're looking to establish a truth. They're not looking for facts. They're looking for truths. Truths are opinions. And they will try day and night to walk you into believing you have a death pledge, that you used a pen as a stabbing instrument, what they call a confessional. And that's why they put you in that box, so you can confess your sins, as it were. where you feel so very vulnerable. Anybody that's vulnerable, ladies and gentlemen, like a child or a baby or a vulnerable woman, will confess to anything on that moment to get to alleviate themselves from the agony that they are feeling. You get it? I think you do. So let me ask you a question. Is a fact a truth? No. Why? Because a fact exists independently of a truth or an opinion. Get it? The reason why the courts are always making accusations and writing to you is because they're operating on Spanish Inquisition. If you don't confess to this crime, we don't care whether you're innocent or not. If you don't confess to it, then the punishment is going to be severe. I think you know where that programming comes from. Yeah? So what is the truth? It requires 3 people to come together to agree upon something, and then they've got trust law, because they've established there is the Father, the Son, Holy Ghost, or the executive, administrator, and the beneficiary. Okay? And there are thousands of examples of that three factors. Once they've done that, now they can turn that into a law. Yeah, that's what law is, when 2 people come together to say that's what that is, and then they've created a law. So is law a fact? Because you get rid of the people, that law disappears. You understand? The law disappears. What if the law was a fact, like the law of gravity? Within our atmospheres, all around our known world, it is. What if we left our planet? Will that same law exist? We don't know. And that's the truth of it. Because why? That's an opinion. Because I've never left this planet. I have no memory of it. And I never checked how gravity works on other planets because I haven't been there. You understand? You see, what I'm trying to do is coin it the best I can without moving to adjectives after adjectives. That's the world of fiction. This is how they create truths, by walking and talk you into, by creating the images in your head to agree with, because they're in your head. They put it in your head, and they want you to now verbalize the image in your head. Once you've done that, you've just confessed. You've made verbal contract. I think I have explained myself. I will, in the future, do my best to coin these terms. You know, like how some of these people do, making themselves look like geniuses on the back of something so simple of what I have said. But I'll coin it relative to what it is, as to opposed to that pronouns and adjectives and adverbs that just simply color things. You see, ladies and gentlemen, just remind yourself, stop this video and just remind yourself and read it from bottom to top. Then read it from top to bottom. Then read it from the root sections, which is facts go beyond theory. They're proven through calculation and experience. That's the root of it. The suffix is in bold. That's the end of it. When you read it from bottom to top, you will know what it really means. When you read it from bottom to top, you'll really know what it means. When you read it from afterwards, when you read it from top to bottom, you'll get a little bit more insight. And when you read the root section of it, that's the middle bit, you really get the gist of how that works. I think you folks understand. You see, the Live Life claim is an instrument where 3 or more people come together to establish a fact, because only a factual language can establish a fact. In Miller's technology, there are no opinions. They're just facts. That's what a Live Life claim is. That's why it's so very powerful and so very different from all the rest of the documents. I think you guys understand what I'm saying. You see, once you've established these truths, these facts, you are now in a very powerful position to dictate your terms and conditions. When's the last time you dictated your terms and conditions to a bank? I do it all the time. When's the last time you dictated your terms and conditions to your governments? I do it all the times. When's the last time you paid your taxes in the correct name and correct language? We do it all the time. You understand what I'm saying, ladies and gentlemen? That's the power of written words, documents, and etc. The world of fiction will do its very best. Sorry, beg your pardon, ladies and gentlemen. It will do its very best to make you believe that you have a mortgage in your life called a death pledge. How can you, in this corona period, have a death pledge with anybody? Corona means life, full of life. It's an oxymoron, isn't it? Just like the difference between a truth and a fact. You see, when you make a decision, like I did in 2008, and probably decades before that when I was a baby, it doesn't really matter whether your decision is correct or not. What is matter is you make that decision. You make a decision and you make that decision correct. Because faith allows you to do that. Yeah, in your hearts and hearts, as your stomach will tell you as well, you know what the facts are. That's why you have such distinctive words like humans and men and women, and truths as opposed to a fact. I was nearly going to say versus a fact, but of course there is no match there. VS means it's a match, like a football match. Yeah, there is no match there at all, because a theory, a truth, it's got nothing to do with a fact. I'm hoping that I have successfully got my message across. These days, as I unravel these things for you, I get a little bit of self-doubt as to whether you have grasped the twists and turns of what I'm describing to you. To me, in my mind, they're very simple, and my hope is that I've explained it very simply to you. If I have, please let me know in the comments section that I have done that. Yeah, when 500 people have written something, and each one of you has put your thumbs up on those comments as well as on this video, it actually enters into the world of law, because 500 people have come together, 500 or more people have come together to agree upon something. That's the power of people. And the job of the corporation and the fiction governments and the fiction courts is to keep you so far away from the facts and keep you in a perpetual loop of truths and trusts. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Until next time. Bye-bye.